On to the planning committee today. There's one or two short. We'll come into that in a minute. We've got a work experienced person here at the back. I can see it. If you can tell us if you can't hear us, and we'll talk a bit closer into the microphones. If I just remind members to do that, is to move it close, move it down so that people can hear you. If not, it won't work that good.
We're also recording the meeting, Chair.
We're also recording the meeting, which we on the council offline. We'll move on to the agenda. Number one, apologies for absence.
Chair, we've had apologies from Councillor Sands, Mike Sands, Councillor Sue Sands, Councillor Vaughan Thomas and Councillor Viv Thomas, and also from Councillor Lovick.
Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No, brilliant. Move on to the planning applications. There's two on
minutes,
our minutes and agenda last time. Do we agree? Correct record. Thank you. Planning applications. Our first one is 4A. It's Belmont Limited Diamond Road, Norwich, and I'll ask Rob to take through.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, members. And the first applicant, actually the only application to be determined this morning is the one on the screen. It's a site on Diamond Road in the north part of the city, and the application is for, as set out on the screen, a two-storey extension to an existing commercial premises. It's a workshop and storage unit, and also the proposal is to infill an existing opening and provide new double doors with a side window and new matching profile metal cladding over the existing brickwork for the existing part of the unit. And I'll just take you through the slides now to show you the proposal in more detail. So here you can see the location of the site. It's on the Vulcan Road Industrial Estate, which is to the north of the Outer Ring Road. We've got the Outer Ring Road in that location there, and the A140 Cromer Road going up in that position. On the
Chair, sorry to interrupt. Would it be possible to have that light on? Because I can't see the screen.
It doesn't make any difference. In fact, I put it on because I thought it improved the screen. If members want to come nearer, it might be.
It's quite light, isn't it? That's better.
Yeah, so the site, this is just to give you a general overview of where the site is located. So it's on this industrial estate in between the Outer Ring Road and Pfeiffer's Lane to the north, and then you've got the A140 Holt Road, Cromer Road, sorry, going in that location. And the site is located in this position here. And then to just zoom in a bit further, this is the site located in between two other industrial units. And you've got some residential properties immediately to the south, so that is quite difficult to see. Hopefully when we move on to the plans, they'll be a bit more straightforward to see. So yeah, you can see the site enclosed with the red line, and you've got an existing building in this location, vehicle access from Diamond Road and into the site here. At the moment, this area is used for parking primarily, and this is the location of the extension, which is to the rear of the premises. And you've got some residential properties to the south, so these are the properties here, and you've got the gardens of these properties backing onto this part of the industrial estate. This is the existing layout of the current building, and this is a business which operates brake testing equipment, manufactures brake testing equipment and related kind of computer technology for that. That's the existing elevation. So this is the section of the building next to the road, and you've got this slightly taller warehouse building in the middle of the site. And then looking at a site plan, this is turned around 90 degrees. So you've got Diamond Road over here. This is the rear of the site boundary with the residential backing onto it. And the yellow area shows where the new extension would be built. The extension measures 18 metres in depth by 12 metres in width. It would be just over 6 metres to the eaves and just over 7 metres to the main ridge height. I'll show you the slightly more detailed layout. And so it's 2-storey, and it'd have a mezzanine on the first floor. And there you can see the elevations. This is the existing building, it's a side elevation, and this is the new build that's proposed at the rear. So 2-storey, and then the new double doors and window are in this location. And the remainder of the building would be clad to match the metal profile sheeting proposed for the extension. This is the south elevation, which would face the neighbouring properties. And I'd ask members to note the windows on the first floor have been amended. They will now be obscure glazed and non-opening as a result of concerns that were raised by the neighbouring occupiers about loss of privacy. That's the elevation the west elevation on the other side of the building. And then this is the northern elevation. We've got the existing buildings in the foreground, and then the extension which rises up at the back. And there's the section drawing just through the building, just to show you its arrangement. And then just to take you on to some photographs of the site, you've got the eastern site boundary, which shows the neighbouring business premise. That's occupied by G4S. That's a view of the rear boundary. You can see that there is a mature hedge in between the residential and the commercial building. That's the western site boundary. You can see that there's another premises which extends quite far towards the boundary with the residential properties. And this, in the foreground of this picture, this is where the new extension would go. And that's another view of the rear of the site. And you can just make out the dormer windows of the residential property on Brabazon Road. And then another view there, you've got the commercial building on that side. This is the site. You can just make out the residential property above the hedge. And a further view of the rear of the site. And then that's looking down the vehicle access roadway that leads to the back of the site. And then that's the front elevation of the existing building. And then a further picture there of the existing building. And then another picture there again of the site entrance and access from Diamond Road. I'll just go back to the site plan. Yes, just to explain in terms of the distance between the neighbouring properties and the proposed extension, it's going to be pretty much in line with that part of the neighbouring business premise. So it would be a distance of about 10 metres from the boundary of the site. And then there would be a further approximately 11 or 12 metres between the boundary of the residential properties and the back of those houses. So you're looking at about 22 metres back-to-back distance between the residential properties and the business premise. So just to take you through the considerations of the application, it is on a designated employment site, so extensions to employment premises are acceptable in principle. Obviously we need to consider the impact on neighbouring occupiers, and then we have received 3 objections to the proposal. The objections are set out in the report on page 16. One of the concerns is that it would lead to overlooking of the residential properties, but we consider we've dealt with that concern because the windows are now obscure glazed, and the condition is recommended to make sure they stay that way. Concern about loss of outlook to neighbouring properties. Our assessment of that is set out in the report. It will be visible above the hedge, but we consider that the back-to-back distance, the separation distance, is acceptable, being 22 metres. The scale of the building proposed is not dissimilar to a two-storey house, so you're kind of looking at what we would normally consider to be an acceptable relationship between two back-to-back dwellings. It's going to be a similar kind of relationship in terms of scale of buildings with this. Further concerns were raised on the location of a soakaway and that being too close to the neighbour's garden. We've asked the applicant to move that further away, and that now accords with best practice guidance. It's going to be further away from the boundary of the property. So, yeah, taking into account all sort of relevant planning policies, we've taken into account neighbours' concerns. We have, done what we can to kind of address those concerns. But the application is considered to be acceptable in planning terms and is recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Questions to the planning officer, anyone? Sandra?
I might have missed it. Have you got a picture from the residential properties towards the application site, so I can see the kind of that there's the outlook they have currently?
Yeah, unfortunately we don't have that, I'm afraid, available. Flip back to the aerial photography. Appreciate it's a little bit difficult to see. But yeah, you can see these are the two closest properties, semi-detached properties. And then you've got a distance of around 11 or 12 metres between the backs of those properties and this garden. One of the considerations is that this property has quite a large garden to the side. It's kind of a wedge-shaped garden, and upstairs the main outlook is to the side. It's got the sort of dormer windows in the roof that look out to the side, so it doesn't rely on the outlook to the north. And I think the other consideration is that because the building is to the north, it won't have such an impact in terms of loss of daylight and sunlight as it would have done if it had been to the south, for example. So there will be an impact, but we consider on balance it to be acceptable.
Yes, Julie.
Sorry, I'm new to this, but is it possible to impose a condition that they have to screen it with trees? Is that something? I mean, they've got a hedge, you say. I don't know who the hedge belongs to. That would be interesting to know, and whether I know that they're going to lose a lot of their car park by doing the extension, but they're putting cycle facilities at this, which is great by the looks of it. If there would be room for a few trees, that's good for biodiversity anyway, but also might help with the screening.
Yeah, I'll just take you back to the photograph. It is possible for us to condition something like that. What I'd say is that that's a pretty tall hedge that's already there, and I think that's probably sufficient to provide screening. We won't completely screen it, but remember that the building's not going to be right up against the hedge. I think the difficulty is when you look at the layout of the site, they're a bit tight on space in terms of parking and cycle parking, and I think it would probably be quite difficult for them to accommodate a tree there, and I think my judgment is that the existing hedge is probably sufficient in terms of a buffer there. And the neighbour does have the ability to have a 2-metre fence as well if they wish to in the future, but the hedge is a healthy one, and I think that's probably sufficient.
Okay, any more questions, anyone? Councillor?
Sorry, I missed. So is the hedge part of the residential property or the industrial?
Industrial.
Part of the industrial property.
That's this side of the fence.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what it looked like to me.
I don't know the answer to that for certain, to be
hedge,
honest.
Well, it looked like this side to a metal fence.
I don't know if there is.
They always got steel fences, didn't they, on industrial estates all the way around.
Yeah, I don't personally know. My hunch would be it'd be more likely to be part of the residential property. They'd be more likely to plant a hedge, but there's certainly no proposal to remove the hedge. we could investigate that further and potentially apply a condition to say that the hedge should be retained. You know, if members were to feel it was necessary. But personally, I don't think there's no proposal to remove the hedge. The hedge shouldn't be threatened by the development. So, you know, I don't think there's any real reason to put a condition on.
Can I just remind members that conditions need to be reasonable too? So if we're not sure of the ownership of the hedge, are we?
Yeah, so it'd be
couldn't
unreasonable to
it would be a
apply
bit
a
unfair
condition.
to put it on residential.
Yeah, if it's not within the applicant's control, it wouldn't be fair for us to condition the retention of the hedge. So,
Councillor Graham, questions?
Yeah, I think the hedge is quite an important mitigating factor in terms of the loss of output. So we should know who it belongs to, and if it belongs to the applicant, I think we should condition it to be retained as mitigation for the loss of output.
yeah, I think what we could say is, what we'll do is, if members are happy with this, we can apply a condition in the event that the applicant owns the hedge, and we'll apply a condition that they should retain the hedge at a minimum height of 2 metres, something like that. If they don't own the hedge, then we won't apply a condition because it wouldn't be reasonable, and it wouldn't be necessary. That sounds fair.
So subject to the
clarifying who
ownership.
owns the ownership of the hedge, we will apply a condition if it is within the ownership of the company.
Councillor Stephen?
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible to reword that slide so that the applicant is responsible for maintaining some kind of barrier between them, whether they own that hedge or not? So, for example, if the hedge was removed by the house owner, hanging the hedge or some other barrier would need to be replaced. The reason why I'm making that suggestion is because I think this does look like a significant, it will have a significant impact on the neighbouring properties and therefore some mitigation is required. Whether the hedge is sufficient or not is debatable even now, but I think maybe may talk about that would be one suggestion.
Boundary treatment to discuss with the applicant.
Yeah, I think it's an option for us to apply a condition to agree the boundary treatments with the applicant by condition, and I think that will deal with it because we can ensure that there's a satisfactory screen there by condition. That's a good suggestion. Yeah.
Any more questions?
So if members happy with that?
Yeah.
So,
Councillor Graham?
Can I just check that a satisfactory screen means a hedge, not a fence? Because there's a need for, there's not a lot of biodiversity in that area, and the hedge would be a bit of an oasis for such wildlife as there is.
it just, you obviously won't want 2 hedges either side.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, and I think in the first instance, the aim will be to retain the existing hedge, and if that is owned by the neighbour, then that's great because that should take care of itself. If it's not, then we would seek to retain that hedge, with the applicant, I think. And if for any reason they wanted a different form of boundary treatment, we would look at that, but we would make sure it's. But in the first instance, we wouldn't want to see the loss of the hedge, so that's going to be our priority.
Okay, well the recommendation is to approve, but I'll move that. I need a second
With the additional.
with the additional.
Condition to agree boundary treatments.
Okay. Councillor Peake, thank you. Discussions, anyone? Councillor Stewart?
So that's seconded by Councillor Peake.
Thank you, Chair. Just to follow up with that condition, I'm satisfied because there are no reasons to vote against this. Although I have some the neighbouring properties as the
Okay, thank you. Councillor Champion?
In the recent biodiversity strategy which has been developed by the Council, I think it's really important that in any planning application we consider biodiversity corridors, and I think hedges like this should be a standard part of any application process. looking at Google Earth, it is, as was pointed out by Councillor Graham here, it's barren. It's, north of that hedge, it's just barren and concrete. And so I think it's really important that we, as part, I appreciate that's not something we have to do as planning, but I think it's something as part of the biodiversity strategy we should be incorporating into any consideration. That would be my comment.
Okay. Any more comments about this application? Now move to the vote, and all those in favour please show. That's unanimous, thank you, that's been agreed. We have got one other piece of business on the agenda, is a site visit to the University of East Anglia to have a look at their new plans they're putting in for whatever walk that's called.
Laston.
The Laston walk, that's correct. And we did have a pre-application for this, didn't we? Or was that for the other one?
There's a pre-application and then there's also applications that are currently under consideration. Yeah, so yeah, this relates to two applications that we're currently dealing with for the University of East Anglia, and it's works to extend and upgrade the teaching wall, otherwise known as the Laston wall.
Sorry, I don't know whether I need to declare an interest, but I am a member of staff and a student, a postgrad student at UEA. Is that relevant to this discussion? I mean, there's no financial interest, except they pay my salary.
Yes, you should declare an interest. So you're declaring it as another interest in that you are employed there, but you're not going to directly benefit from this application.
Well, unless she's working in the building.
I don't know.
Yes, so the full description of the application is on the screen. I won't read it all out, but essentially it involves extensions and extensive refurbishment of the building, improved energy efficiencies, and a range of other associated developments as part of this refurbishment and improvement project that the UEA wish to carry out. It's been requested that members visit the site because part of the proposal involves internal changes and some of the justification involves looking at kind of the building from the inside, and therefore the UEA has invited members to go and visit the site so they can see for themselves what the proposals are and ask any questions of people at the university. And officers support that as being a good thing to do. So that would probably take place on the day of committee. We don't know the date of committee yet, but it's likely to be either August or September, possibly October, I think. Depends on how progress with the application goes. But the recommendation is that members carry out the site visit for that committee item at a future date, which will be, you'll get sent details about.
Okay, Councillor Graham?
I'm quite happy to support a site visit in principle. I think that would be very helpful, but I think having it on the same day as the planning application doesn't really give us much time to process what we've seen and learned, so I would prefer if it was on a different day.
I think we're going to get the documents and everything first. We talked about that, Councillor Graham, before we started. I think we've already got all the plans and everything to read through before we go on the site visit, so you should be able to.
Chair, that is the proposal from officers, that you have the report when you go on the site visit so that you have some information before you then come back to committee. And it is something that we have done previously.
Everything's in your mind when you come back here to carry on a meeting when the plans go through.
Yeah, because basically you're going on the site visit to get information, but the real questions about various things will be back at committee, so you're there seeing the information, and that's why we do it on the same day.
Yeah. And also you could have 2 or 3 people who wasn't there for the site visit turn up to the meeting the next time and you want to decide it, or not be there to see it.
We propose to arrange transport from City Hall so that we don't lose people on the way or back. So exactly. So hopefully it'll make it easy, and then we'll have the committee at a sensible time afterwards, so that there is time for people to get back, so we're not too rushed.
Okay, is it agreed that we have a site visit? Everyone in favour of that? No objections? Yep, brilliant, thank you. Well, that takes us to the end of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Sorry,
Councillor Chairman.
Is that on the 11th or the 8th? Sorry, the plan.
It's second Thursday of the month is the day committee.
Oh, but on the recommendation, sorry, am I missing? It said either the plan.
It's not clear yet, but.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
not.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
We-
okay.
It's
Okay,
likely
fine.
to be one of those two dates. It just depends on
September, I
how
would
application
have
I
progresses.
think it's more likely
Um,
September, isn't it?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah. I think September's the more likely of the two.
One of the reasons we do it in public is so that it's open and transparent, that you're undertaking a site visit as well, so that members of the public will know that. Okay? So that it'll be in these minutes for this meeting and obviously on the agenda for whichever meeting that you go on, there will be mention of the site visit.
Okay, we are advising people to come here and then all go up together in the minibus. Take the bikes, it's fine, but if you take the car, there won't be nowhere to park. Councillor Sturdy?
Yes, are members of the public able to attend the site visit?
We have a site visit policy which is included in the Constitution. Members of the public may attend where it's in the public area. It's up to the owner of the site whether they can come into non-public areas. So yes, if any interested members of the public wanted to come, they would be able to attend for the public areas. And then it's within the applicant's gift.
Thank you, that's the end of the meeting.